The knockout was within reach. Just one more punch. Ali could see it in his opponent's eyes, the glassy stare, the slight wobble in the knees. Tyson Mills, the undefeated champion who'd taunted him for months, was vulnerable. The Madison Square Garden crowd sensed it too, rising to their feet, the collective roar of 20,000 people urging Ali forward. "Finish him!" Someone screamed from ringside. Ali's gloves felt heavy. 18 rounds of punishment evident in every labored breath. Blood trickled from the cut above his right eye. His trainer Marcus shouted instructions from the corner, but the words dissolved into the wall of noise. Mills stumbled, his back against the ropes. The perfect opening. Ali pulled his right hand back, loading up the knockout blow that would change everything. The title, the 7-figure payday, the redemption story sports networks had been salivating over since his comeback. 3 years of relentless training, of pre-dawn runs through Brooklyn streets, of sacrificing everything for this moment. Then he saw it. The slight tremble in Mills's left hand, the uneven pupil dilation, the delayed reaction as Mills tried to raise his guard. Ali stopped, his fist suspended in midair. He stepped back. The referee looked at him in confusion. The crowd's roar transformed into a bewildered murmur. "What are you doing?" Marcus screamed from the corner. "Finish it." Ali shook his head and turned to the referee. "Stop the fight," he said, his voice barely audible over the crowd. "What?" The referee leaned in. "He's hurt. Really hurt. Not boxing hurt. Something's wrong." Ali pointed at Mills, who was now blinking rapidly, struggling to focus. "Stop the fight." The arena went completely silent as Ali walked to his corner without throwing the final punch. Mills collapsed before the referee could even wave his arms to signal the end. Medical staff rushed into the ring. The announcer's voice cracked with confusion. "Ladies and gentlemen, Ali Santos has refused to continue his attack, apparently concerned for his opponent's condition." Boos erupted from the upper decks. Bottles and programs rained down. Marcus grabbed Ali by the shoulders, his face contorted with rage. "Do you have any idea what you just did?" he hissed. Ali watched as the medical team worked frantically on Mills, who lay motionless on the canvas. An oxygen mask appeared, then a backboard. The crowd, sensing the gravity of the situation, gradually fell silent again. "Yeah," Ali said quietly. "I think I do." His phone buzzed in the locker room. It was the 15th call from his agent in the past 10 minutes. Ali let it go to voicemail like the others. Through the thin walls, he could hear reporters clamoring outside, their questions blending into white noise. The locker room door slammed open. Marcus stormed in, followed by Eddie Parsons, the event promoter whose face had turned the color of raw steak. "Social media is calling you a coward." Marcus threw his phone on the bench. "The betting forums think it was fixed. Sponsors are already calling to pull out." Eddie stepped closer, jabbing a finger toward Ali's face. "Do you understand what you cost me tonight? What you cost yourself? The rematch was worth 8 figures minimum." Ali continued unwrapping his hands, the blood-stained gauze falling to the floor. "How's Mills?" "Oh, now you care?" Eddie laughed bitterly. "You embarrassed him in front of the whole world. You made him look weak." "That's not what I asked." Marcus sighed, his anger deflating slightly. "They took him to Presbyterian. That's all we know." Ali nodded and stood up, wincing as pain shot through his ribs, probably cracked in the 11th round. He grabbed his bag. "Where do you think you're going?" Eddie blocked the door. "Hospital. Are you insane? There are 50 reporters out there ready to crucify you. Your career might be over and you want to go check on the guy you just robbed of his dignity." Ali looked Eddie directly in the eyes. "Move." The promoter held his ground for a moment, then stepped aside with a disgusted wave. "Your father would be ashamed." The words landed harder than any punch Ali had taken in the ring. He paused at the door, the weight of his father's legacy suddenly heavy on his shoulders. "Maybe," Ali said, "but at least I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror tomorrow." The hallway outside was chaos. Reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing, security guards forming a narrow path. Ali pulled his hoodie over his head and pushed through, ignoring the microphones thrust in his face. "Ali, is it true you were paid to throw the fight? Did your camp have inside information about Mills's condition? Are you retiring after tonight's disgrace?" He shouldered past them all, moving toward the service exit where he'd asked his driver to wait. Just before reaching the door, he felt a hand on his arm. Ali turned, ready to shake off another reporter, but instead found himself face to face with an older woman, her eyes red from crying. He recognized her immediately. Catherine Mills, Tyson's mother. "Mr. Santos," she said, her voice trembling. "I need to speak with you." "I'm so sorry about what happened," Ali said. "I'm heading to the hospital now." She squeezed his arm tighter. "The doctors think you saved my son's life." Ali froze, the noise of the corridor fading away. "He had a brain hemorrhage," she continued, tears streaming down her face. "They said another hit could have—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Something shifted in Ali's chest, a weight lifting replaced by a new heaviness. "How did you know? That something was wrong?" The memory flashed vivid and painful. His father collapsing in the ring 10 years ago. The delayed reaction from the referee. The medical staff working desperately as 12-year-old Ali watched from the front row, knowing something was terribly wrong before anyone else did. "I've seen it before," was all he said. Catherine Mills hugged him fiercely. Over her shoulder, Ali noticed the reporters had gone quiet, cameras capturing the moment. His phone buzzed again in his pocket. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for what you gave up tonight." As Ali finally pushed through the exit doors, the cool night air hit his face. His driver waited by the curb, looking uncomfortable. "Hospital?" the driver asked. Ali nodded, sliding into the back seat. Only then did he check his phone. Alongside the missed calls from his agent were dozens of notifications. His Instagram followers had jumped by 200,000 in the last hour. Ali Santos was trending worldwide. And there was a text from someone he hadn't heard from in years. "Your father would be proud." "I am." His mother. The bright fluorescent lights of Presbyterian Hospital made Ali's head pound. He sat in the waiting room, hood still pulled low over his face, though it hadn't prevented recognition. Hospital staff kept finding excuses to walk past. Patients and visitors stared. A few had asked for selfies, which he politely declined. "Coffee?" A cup appeared in front of him, held by a woman in green scrubs. "Thanks. But I'm good," Ali replied without looking up. "It's the least I can offer the man who just sacrificed millions to save my brother." Ali looked up, meeting the steady gaze of a woman with Mills's same chestnut eyes. "Dr. Mills," she said, extending her hand. "Aisha Mills, Tyson's sister." Ali stood to shake her hand. "How is he?" "Stable. They've relieved the pressure on his brain." She sat beside him, still holding the coffee. The neurosurgeon said he'd been fighting with a pre-existing condition. Small bleeds that had gone undetected for months, maybe years. He didn't know? Oh, he knew. Her voice hardened. 3 doctors told him to stop fighting after his last bout. But Tyson has never been good at listening to medical advice. She paused. Or recognizing his limits. Ali thought about the whispers in the boxing community. Mills' increasingly erratic behavior in interviews, the mood swings, the training camp stories of uncharacteristic confusion. His team should have protected him, Ali said. Aisha's laugh was bitter. His team cared about one thing, and it wasn't his health. They sat in silence for a moment. "How did you know?" she finally asked. "Everyone else just saw a fighter on the ropes. You saw something more." Ali stared at the tiled floor. "My father died in the ring when I was 12. Same symptoms. I was sitting ringside." Aisha's expression softened. "Jesus. I'm sorry." His opponent saw the signs too. But he took the shot anyway. Ali looked up at her. "I promised myself I'd never be that guy." She nodded slowly, then reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Tyson regained consciousness briefly. "He asked me to give you this if you came by." Ali unfolded the note, written in shaky handwriting. "You're still a punk, but thanks. Rematch when I'm better?" Despite everything, Ali smiled. The double doors to the emergency area swung open, and a flood of reporters pushed through, led by a hospital administrator who looked both annoyed and thrilled by the attention. "Mr. Santos, how does it feel to be called boxing's conscience? Are you visiting Mills to negotiate the rematch? Is this a publicity stunt organized by both camps?" Before Ali could respond, Aisha stepped between him and the cameras. "This is a hospital, not a press conference," she said with the authority that only medical professionals can summon. "My brother is recovering from emergency surgery, and Mr. Santos is here as a concerned colleague. Anyone with a microphone needs to leave. Now." The administrator cleared his throat. "Dr. Mills, these people have press credentials, and I have the authority to have security remove anyone interfering with patient care." She pointed to the exit. Out. As the grumbling reporters retreated, Allie looked at Aisha with newfound respect. Thank you for that. I've been protecting my brother from vultures his whole life, she said. Different circumstances, same instinct. A nurse approached them, speaking quietly to Aisha. She nodded, then turned to Allie. Tyson's awake again. He's asking to see you. Allie hesitated. Are you sure that's a good idea? Probably not. Aisha smiled slightly. But when has that ever stopped either of you? As Allie followed her through the hospital corridors, his phone buzzed yet again. This time he answered. Not now, Dave, he said to his agent. You need to turn on the news, Dave replied, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. It's about Mills. I'm at the hospital. He's stable. Not that. The toxicology report leaked. He tested positive for performance enhancers, multiple substances. Allie stopped walking. What? It's everywhere. Boxing Commission is already talking about stripping his title, retroactively declaring your fight a no contest. The pieces clicked into place. Mills's supernatural endurance, his barely legal weight cut, the whispers about his new training regimen. I'll call you back, Allie said, ending the call as they reached Mills's room. Aisha looked at him questioningly. Everything okay? No, Allie thought. Nothing about this is okay. Fine, he said. Just agent stuff. Mills lay in the hospital bed, his imposing frame somehow diminished by the medical equipment surrounding him. A bandage wrapped around his head where they'd performed the surgery. His championship belt, the one Ollie had sacrificed millions to not take, sat incongruously on the bedside table. Look what the cat dragged in, Mills said, his voice weak but still carrying that characteristic Brooklyn edge. The man who wouldn't knock me out. You're welcome, Allie replied, staying near the door. They tell me you saved my life. Mills gestured vaguely at the machines monitoring his vital signs. That true? The doctors saved your life. I just didn't make their job harder. Mills attempted a laugh that turned into a grimace. Always humble. That's your whole brand, right? Ali Santos, boxing's last gentleman. The bitterness in his voice was unmistakable. I didn't come here for this, Ali said, turning to leave. Wait, Mills sighed. I'm being an ass. Force of habit. He gestured to the chair beside the bed. Sit, please. Ali hesitated, then took the seat. You know what the worst part is? Mills continued. Not the surgery. Not even knowing my career is probably over. He pointed at the belt. It's that I'll always wonder if I could have beaten you fair and square. The leaked toxicology report hung heavy in Ali's mind. He chose his next words carefully. We all make choices in this game, he said. Some to win, some to survive. Something in Mills' expression shifted. A flash of alarm quickly masked. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Ali stood up. Get well, champ. As he reached the door, Mills called after him. Santos. The stuff they're saying about you online, the coward stuff, they're wrong. Ali paused without turning around. What you did took more guts than throwing that punch. Mills continued. I won't forget it. In the hallway, Aisha waited, arms crossed. That was quick, she said. Said what needed saying. Ali glanced back at the closed door. He knows, doesn't he? About the PEDs? Aisha's expression confirmed it before she spoke. How did you? It just broke. It'll be everywhere by morning. She closed her eyes briefly. He's been fighting injured for years. The drugs weren't for an edge, they were to mask the pain. To keep going when his body was breaking down. That doesn't make it right. No, she agreed. But it makes it human. Ali's phone lit up with another call. Marcus this time. He silenced it. You should get some rest, he told Aisha. It's going to be a circus tomorrow. What about you? Where are you going? Ali honestly didn't know. His apartment would be surrounded by media. The gym wasn't safe either. For the first time in his career, he had no fight to prepare for, no clear next step. I'll figure it out. As he turned to leave, Aisha caught his arm, much like her mother had earlier. What you did tonight, giving up your shot like that, most people wouldn't have made that call. Most people didn't watch their father die in the ring, Ali replied. She studied him for a moment. You should come to the clinic sometime. Where I work, there are kids there who could use a role model who understands that winning isn't everything. I'm not sure I'm role model material right now. After tonight, she smiled. I think you're exactly what they need. The clinic sat in the heart of Brownsville, Brooklyn, where both Ali and Mills had grown up, though a decade apart. 6 months after the fight that never finished, the neighborhood looked the same. Same corner stores, same project buildings, same kids playing basketball in the park where Ali had once dreamed of being the next LeBron before boxing pulled him in another direction. The Brownsville Community Health Center occupied a renovated brownstone, its fresh paint and new sign standing out among the weathered buildings surrounding it. Ali parked his car, no longer a luxury model but a practical sedan, and grabbed the box of boxing gloves from the trunk. As he approached the entrance, he spotted Aisha talking with a group of teenagers on the steps. When she saw him, she smiled and waved him over. "Right on time," she said. "Everyone, this is Ali Santos," one of the boys interrupted, eyes wide. "The guy who gave up the belt." Ali winced slightly at the description. 6 months, and that was still his legacy, the fighter who walked away. "I prefer to think of it as choosing something more important than a belt," he said, setting down the box. "I brought some gear for the program." After the fight, everything had unraveled quickly. The boxing commission had stripped Mills of his title. His team had abandoned him as sponsors fled. The subsequent investigation revealed a pattern of negligence that resulted in multiple lawsuits. For Ali, the aftermath had been complicated. Some called him a hero. Others insisted he'd thrown the fight, pointing to his financial troubles as motive. His refusal to speak publicly about it only fueled speculation. His career wasn't over. There had been offers, but something fundamental had changed in him that night. The hunger was gone. "Let's head inside," Aisha said, leading the group through the doors. "Ali's going to help with our trauma recovery program today." The clinic's basement had been converted into a modest boxing gym. Speed bags hung along one wall, a ring occupied the center, and various equipment filled the remaining space. About 20 kids, ranging from preteens to late teens, were already warming up. "Most of these kids have experienced significant trauma," Aisha explained quietly. "Violence, loss, displacement. Boxing gives them structure, discipline, and a healthy outlet." Ali nodded, understanding completely. After his father's death, boxing had been both his demon and his salvation. "What do you need me to do?" "Just talk to them. Show them some basics. Mostly, let them see someone who made a hard choice and survived it." A girl of about 15 approached them, headgear already on, hands properly wrapped. "Are you really going to train with us?" she asked Ali, a challenge in her voice. "That's the plan," he replied. "I'm Ali." "Destiny," she said. "I watched your almost fight with Mills. My dad said you choked. Was he right?" The directness startled a laugh out of Ali. "What do you think?" She studied him. "I think you saw something nobody else did." "Smart kid," Ali said, looking at Aisha. "This one's observant." "Destiny wants to compete," Aisha explained. "She's got real talent." "Then let's see what you've got," Ali said, moving toward the ring. "But first, let me tell all of you a story about my father, and why sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from a fight." For the next hour, Ali worked with the kids, showing them techniques, correcting stances, but mostly listening to their stories. Some had lost parents to violence. Others had experienced homelessness. All carried burdens too heavy for their young shoulders. During a water break, Aisha joined him at the side of the ring. "You're good with them," she said. "Better than I expected." "They remind me of me," Ali admitted. "Angry at the world but looking for somewhere to put it." "Have you decided about the Diaz offer?" Word had leaked that Miguel Diaz, the current champion, had offered Ali a title shot, capitalizing on the publicity from the Mills fight. "Fighting for another belt doesn't feel right anymore," Ali said. "But I'm not sure what else I'm good at." "You're good at this." Aisha gestured around the gym. "These kids haven't stopped watching you since you walked in." Before Ali could respond, the clinic's front door buzzer sounded repeatedly. One of the staff members rushed downstairs. "Dr. Mills, there's someone here insisting on seeing Ali." They all turned to see Tyson Mills descending the stairs, using a cane for support but otherwise looking remarkably recovered. The room fell silent. "Sorry to crash the party," Mills said, his voice carrying across the gym. "But I needed to find this punk." The kids looked between Ali and Mills, tension filling the air. The rivalry between these two fighters had been legendary, their press conferences infamous for personal attacks and near brawls. Ali stepped forward. "Mills, didn't expect to see you here." "Yeah, well." Mills gestured at his sister. Aisha mentioned you'd be around. Thought it was time we cleared the air. Publicly. He moved further into the room, nodding at the kids who stared at him in awe. The former champion's presence was still commanding, despite the cane and the visible scar along his scalp. You all know who I am? He asked the group. They nodded, wide-eyed. Then you know I was the baddest man on the planet before this happened. He pointed to his head. And you probably heard that Santos here refused to finish me when he had the chance. The room remained silent, every eye fixed on the two fighters. What you might not know, Mills continued, is that he saved my life by making that call, and I never properly thanked him for it. He turned to Ali, extending his hand. So thank you for seeing what everyone else missed. Ali hesitated only briefly before shaking Mills's hand. The gesture felt like closing a chapter. What are you doing these days? Ali asked. Besides interrupting my coaching sessions, Mills grinned. Funny you should ask. He looked around the gym. I'm opening a boxing academy in Bed-Stuy for kids like us. Was hoping I might convince you to come on board. Ali raised an eyebrow. You and me? Working together? Who better? Mills shrugged. Between us, we've seen every high and low this sport has to offer. I don't know, Ali said, genuinely surprised by the offer. We've never exactly been friends. True, Mills acknowledged. But respect matters more than friendship in this game. And after what went down, you've got mine. He glanced at the kids watching them. Plus, think about the message it sends. Two guys from the same streets, former rivals, coming together to give back. Ali looked at Aisha, who gave him a small nod of encouragement. I'll think about it, he promised. That's all I'm asking. Mills handed him a business card. In the meantime, there's something else. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded document. The Boxing Commission is holding a hearing next week about reinstating your eligibility. After the Mills fight, the commission had suspended Ali pending their investigation into fight-fixing allegations. I've submitted testimony clearing you of any wrongdoing, Mills continued. Told them exactly what happened in that ring. Ali took the document, emotion tightening his throat. You didn't have to do that. Yeah, I did. Mills looked him straight in the eyes. In this neighborhood, we don't always get second chances. When we do, we've got to make them count. One of the teenagers raised his hand tentatively. So, are you guys friends now? Mills laughed. Let's not get carried away, kid. But we're something better than enemies. Rivals who respect each other, Ali suggested. I can live with that. Mills turned to address the whole group. Listen up. What Santos did that night wasn't weakness. It was the kind of strength they don't give out belts for. Remember that. As Mills prepared to leave, he paused beside Ali. The offer stands. Think about it. These kids need men like us to show them there's more than one way to be strong. After Mills departed, the session continued, but something had shifted in the room. The kids trained with renewed focus, occasionally glancing at Ali with newfound respect. Later, as Ali helped Aisha close up the gym, she bumped his shoulder playfully. So, partners with Tyson Mills. Didn't see that coming. Ali shook his head, still processing the encounter. Not sure it makes sense. It makes perfect sense, she countered. You both understand loss, sacrifice, redemption. She gestured toward the boxing ring. And you both know that what happens in there isn't the whole story. Ali looked around the modest gym, at the worn equipment and the inspirational quotes taped to the walls. 6 months ago, he'd been focused on championship belts and pay-per-view numbers. Now those things seemed hollow compared to what he'd witnessed here. I'm supposed to meet with Diaz's people tomorrow, he said. About the title shot. Aisha studied him. And what are you going to tell them? Ali thought about the moment in the ring with Mills. That suspended second where everything had become clear. He thought about his father, about legacy, about what really mattered when everything else was stripped away. I'm going to tell them I found a different fight, he said finally. One that matters more. Aisha smiled. The kids will be thrilled, especially Destiny. She's been talking about training with Ali Santos all week. I'm not making any promises, Ali cautioned. I need to figure out if this is really where I belong. Fair enough. She handed him a set of keys. But just so you know, these are yours, in case you want to come by before our next official session. As they walked out of the clinic together, the Brooklyn sunset painting the neighborhood in warm hues, Ali felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Purpose. Not the manufactured purpose of training camps and fight promotions, but something authentic. His phone buzzed. Dave again, probably calling about the Diaz meeting. Ali silenced it and pocketed the clinic keys instead. "Same time Thursday?" he asked Aisha. "We'll be here," she replied. "And Ali, what you did that night in the ring, giving up everything to do the right thing, that's what makes you someone worth following. Don't forget that." As he drove through the streets where he'd grown up, Ali thought about choices, consequences, and second chances. The arena had gone silent after his decision that night, but what had happened in the minutes, days, and months afterward had shaped a different kind of legacy, one measured not in belts or purses, but in lives touched and lessons passed on. Tomorrow, he'd make another choice. And this time, he already knew what the right decision was. If you made it this far, and felt every word, won't you leave without subscribing? I tell these stories with my heart in my hand to reach people like you, who feel, who get emotional, who live. If this truly touched you, give something back. Comment. Subscribe. Come be part of this family with me until the next video.